Raise your hand if you suspect you have too much yarn and should be using up more of it than you are.
Me.
Me too, Oscar Wilde. This is episode 5 of my 12-part series, Untangling the Stash. Today we're turning Yarn Dragon mountains of fiber into stuff and things that you'll actually love and use. No more random scraps begging for a purpose. We're going to look at which stitches and methods use the most yarn, how to skillfully combine scraps into chic, not shirty projects. And along the way, I'll show you some of my favorite busters, both finished and aspirational. Understood, Oscar. This is Taffy. She's living here this week. Oscar is not entirely impressed, but he's tolerating it. Taffy's humans are gallivanting around Europe, having a very good time. And we are delighted to have her because she is the cutest and the sweetest. Prove me wrong. I know, Oscar, you are cute, but come on, Taffy. Let's start big. Scrappy schmappy. How do I burn through full skeins? After all, we want to make space on our shelves and in our hearts for new yarn. Here's where to start. Crochet. As always, there are exceptions, but as a rule, crochet will burn through more of your stash than knitting. Any slip stitch, texture, or color work like mosaic. Mosaic projects use more yarn because, like a garter, you need to knit almost 2 rows to get the equivalent of 1 row's length in stocking stitch. Super Buster, mosaic crochet. My mosaic dinosaur adventure blanket used up 4,122 meters of yarn in a throw size blanket. That's 12.5 skeins gone like the wind. Okay, not like the wind. It took a long time, but I did use a ton of yarn. So, garter stitch uses more yarn because of the vertical pull of the stacked knit and purl rows. Yes, I know with garter you're knitting every row, but the consequence of that is the alternating knit purl on each side. Think of it like horizontal ribbing. You can see on this swatch, I've got stockinette on this side and garter on this side, and it's pretty clear that this garter stitch side is scrunched compared to the stockinette side. If you want great examples of garter stitch projects, you can go watch this video all about my undying respect for the humble garter stitch. Marling, holding 2 or 3 strands together as you go and just keep knitting until you run out of steam or snacks. This swatch is also an example of marling these 2 yarns together. 2 fingering weight yarns, Aran weight fabric. This is a cardigan that has been in my queue for a year. Of course, I also have a video about marling, but you have the option of getting yourself this amazing book by Cecilia Campochiaro. It is so inspiring. It will send you not walking, but sprinting to your stash to play with yarn combinations. Stash Buster, garter, plus marling. My Pearl Soho library blanket used 4,700 meters of yarn, or the equivalent of 13 skeins of fingering weight This is at least 3 sweaters worth of yarn used up in one project, and it is the squishiest and most delicious. No, you can't eat it, Oscar. Stephen West shawls. Now, you, like me, might have feelings about Stephen's design aesthetic, but let's face it, the guy is the epitome of knitting courage. I am a huge fan of his work, although I stand by my declaration that I will never do one of his mystery knit-alongs. Mostly because I'm not keen on mystery knit-alongs generally. However, he has a series of painting-based designs like painting stripes, honeycombs, waves, parallelograms, which, in the right palette for me and my fuss-budgety taste, would make absolutely brilliant stash attack projects. His shawls are big. Now, pro tip, if you've never heard me rant lovingly about why every shawl should be converted to my signature wrapover shaping to make it wearable, go check out my video on how I hack all my shawls so that I actually wear them. And sweaters. Yes, there are some scrappy-esque sweaters that make the Knicoleknits grade, especially ones that play with striping or marling, like the sea glass sweater from Woolen Pine. And I am just going to say, I've got a little thing going on for Woolen Pine these days. I just put about half dozen of their patterns into a bundle in my favorites. Whew, I'm swooning. I'm going to admit that pulling together a classy, multicolored, scrappy sweater like this can be somewhat treacherous, but a little bit later, I'll give you a tip on how to not let your multi-combos venture into unicorn nightmare territory. And as a little bonus, this is Carolyn Bloom's version of Junko Okamoto's HANA. It's not my colors, but I love the concept. If you wanted to copy this, you can buy her notes for how she achieved this effect in this sweater pattern for $5 on her website. Do you have a favorite scrappy yet very tasteful sweater pattern? Share it in the comments. The more inspiration, the better. Now let's focus on those bins of leftover yarn spaghetti. That collection of bits and pieces you just can't bear to part with, but continues to grow with every project. It's time for a strategy. Do you know about magic knots and magic balls? I didn't, until the brilliant and delightful Laura Nelkin showed me during a knit-along I was in last fall. You can create your own self-striping or color-changing yarn a la Noro style. You just tie the ends of your scraps together with magic knots and cut off the ends. I said what I said. Of course, really slippery yarns are going to be out of the question, but it will work for the majority of your bits. I'll put a link to Laura's full video on this method in the description box, but here's a quick demo of how it's done. I'm too lazy to set up the hand cam, so we're going to do it with really big yarn. This is it. You take the two ends and layer them over each other. On this side, you're going to wrap this end all the way around the other strand and pull it into a very snug knot. Then do the exact same thing at the other end, wrap it all the way around and tie it into a very snug knot. Now, you're going to carefully draw these two knots together until they have butted right up, and then tug on that connection as firmly as you can without breaking the yarn. If you do break the yarn, it's okay. Just cut it all off and start over. You're only losing a few inches. Once you're convinced, and yeah, I know you won't be the first time, but you'll get there, that it is absolutely secure, you can take your scissors and just cut those ends right off. Now you have a continuous strand of yarn with, yeah, I admit, a hard little lumpy knot in it, but you decide. Do you want absolutely smooth connections, or do you want to weave in all those ends? You pick. I have been so intrigued by this method since I used it in that knit along that as I have been tidying up and organizing my bits and pieces of scrap yarns, I've been doing it with magic knots in mind. I had this bag of the leftover scraps from knitting my lovely Nightshift wrapover shawl, and they were just so beautiful together, but tiny little pieces. So I sat down and weighed out 3 to 4 grams of each color and started tying it into a magic ball using magic knots. And then I wanted to show off my beautiful magic ball. So I grabbed my Barbara Walker treasury of charted knitting designs and just picked out a very simple 10 stitch by 7 row mosaic pattern. I snagged a lovely solid out of my stash to coordinate with my magic ball, and check this out. How cool is that? And no ends to weave in. I made my own fantastic color changing yarn. Now, of course, these color changes are going to happen a lot differently over more stitches. I might only get one or maybe even only half a repeat in each color before it changes, but I still think it would look pretty dang cool. This would make a fabulous cowl or a hat. I just love it. So much inspiration. Give it a try. But, and it's a big but, you do not, Oscar, zip it. If you don't want your project to look like a box of melted crayons, we need a plan. I have 2 favorite options. One is use a color wheel to help achieve cohesive colorways. This one is the Pocket Color Wheel from the Color Wheel Company. I'll pop the link in the description box. It's under $10, but worth its weight in gold. Not that it weighs very much. It's a visual crash course in tint, tone, shade, monochromatic, analogous, complementary, and triads. Tiny turns lead to one amazing color combination after another. And if a color wheel feels too overwhelming, websites like coolers.co can be your new BFF. Pop coolers.co into the Google, click Explore Trends, and boom, professional palettes at your fingertips. No fuss, no muss, no getting to play with a fun color wheel. And of course, your favorite yarn dyers will have expert advice about color theory. In Knit Stars Season 2, Beata Jezik from Hedgehog Fibers demonstrated how to make your rainbow selections less circus and more sophisticated. All you have to do is remove one of the Roijibiv colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Take one away And you'll get a rainbow flavored colorway that doesn't read, oh, you just threw them all in there. We've all seen those, right? All right, time for a reality check. Scrappy projects equal a lot of ends. Here's how to play with them and have a good time and not lose your mind. Fringe. Leave the ends, trim them until they're tidy, and move on with your life. This excavation blanket by Jana Pichota, aka Hip Knitizer, such a cool name, is a perfect example of fringing the ends, and it's a free pattern. I-cord edging, my favorite trick. Knit an applied I-cord edge all the way around your finished piece and hiding the tails inside like the sneaky yarn goblin you are. Weaving as you go. Personally, I don't mind weaving my ends in later using a tried and true tapestry needle and some elbow grease. Partly I do this because if I need to frog at any point, I don't want those ends already woven in and slowing down my frogging flow and possibly finding split yarn here and there when I was weaving in. But if you hate dealing with the ends, there are options to clean them up as you go. There are literally a bazillion videos out there on weaving in ends as you go. My pro tip, don't weave more than one tail at a time. Weave the new yarn in first, then drop and weave the old one. You can use a lock your floats method of weaving the tail over and under the working yarn instead of just wrapping it around and around. But in reality, I feel like whatever method gets the job done without noticeable distortion on the public side of the work is the right method. Try a few different methods and settle on your favorite. Another option, of course, is what we just talked about. Zero out the ends altogether with magic knots. Did you miss that segment? Just rewind a smidge and you'll find it. What's your best tip for dealing with dastardly yarn ends? Got a favorite tutorial? We all want all the ideas. And finally, I can't let this video end without showing you this brand new book from Lina's 52 Weeks series, 52 Weeks of Scrap Yarn. This book is loaded with some really spectacular stash-busting possibilities. Check this out for your scrappiest of scraps. I'm a little into the embroidering, unfinished knitting thing these days. How about this Chromelia yoke? So pretty. These jute rug socks are phenomenal. I always love a textured stitch that looks like it's woven. And this has got to be one of the best scrappy, take it with you everywhere kind of projects. Knit or crochet a zillion little hexagons and sew them together. Super fun book. Get to your local yarn store and have a browse, or check it out from your library. Okay, my friend, your stash doesn't have to be a guilt trip in yarn form. Full skeins, eat them up. Scraps, tame them. Ends, conquered. And remember, knitting from your stash doesn't mean settling. It means leveling up, getting experimental, tapping in to your creative, groovy, freewheeling self. There's one in there somewhere. And speaking of up, boop that thumbs up button for me and subscribe if you want to be reminded about next month's installment, mini skeins and Advent yarn. How to finally use those adorable tiny skeins you got inspired to buy. In the meantime, here's a link to get you caught up on the 2025 Untangle the Stash series. So far, I say goodbye. Oscar says goodbye. Keep those needles clicking, and we hope to see you very soon. Bye.